Good evening. Welcome to Advent Day 16. Tonight we're reading Daniel 6, 2 through 29. Daniel. Chessie looks like she wants to jump up here. Oh, she didn't. Okay. That's good. Okay, so we've jumped several books of the Old Testament. I think we were, in Kings yesterday? And we jumped all the way to Daniel. That's a lot of the Old Testament, but that's okay because we're moving along. All right, starting in verse, I'm just going to read the whole thing because why not? Just 6, all of 6. It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 satraps to be over the whole kingdom. And over these 3 governors, of whom Daniel was one, that the satraps might give account to them, so that the king would suffer no loss. All right, I'm just going to look real quick at... So a satrap is a general term for government officials, just so we all know what I'm talking about. Okay. Then Daniel distinguished himself above the governor and satraps because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king gave thought to settle him over the whole realm. So the governors and satraps? I don't know. Sought to find some charge against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could not find no charge or fault because he was faithful. Nor was there any error or fault found in him. Then these men said, "We shall not find any charge against this Daniel unless we find it against him concerning the law of his God." Sounds familiar. I'll read the kingdom dynamics after. There's a couple for this section. So these governors and satraps thronged before the king and said to him, "King Darius, live forever. All the governors of the kingdom, the administrators and satraps, the counselors and advisors have consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree that whoever petitions any god or man for 30 days except you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions. Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the writing so that it cannot be changed according to the law." My gosh, my cat's knocking everything over there. Harry is knocking everything over. Okay. According to the law of the Medes and Persians, or Medes and Persians, which does not alter. Therefore, King Darius signed the written decree. Now, when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went home. And in his upper room with his windows open toward Jerusalem, he knelt down on his knees 3 times that day and prayed and gave thanks before his God, as was his custom. Since early days, Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God. And they went before the king and spoke concerning the king's decree. "Have you not signed a decree that every man who petitions any god or man within 30 days except you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions?" The king answered and said, "The thing is true, according to the law of Medes and Persians, which does not alter." So they answered and said before the king that Daniel, who is one of the captives from Judah, does not show due regard for you, O king, or for the decree that you have signed, but makes his petitions 3 times a day. And the king, when he heard these words, was greatly displeased with himself and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him. And he labored till the going down of the sun to deliver him. Then these men approached the king and said to the king, "Know, O king, that it is the law of Medes and Persians that no decree or statute which the king establishes may be changed." So the king gave the command, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. But the king spoke, saying to Daniel, "Your God whom you serve continually, he will deliver you." Then a stone was brought and laid on the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring, and with the signets of his lords, that the purpose concerning Daniel might not be changed. Now the king, now the king went into his palace and spent the night fasting, and no musicians were brought before him. Also his sleep went from him. Then the king arose very early in the morning and went in haste to the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried out with a lamenting voice to Daniel. The king spoke, saying to Daniel, David, oh my gosh, Daniel, Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God whom you serve continually been able to deliver you from the lions? Then Daniel said to the king, O king, live forever. My God sent his angels, sorry, that's Harry, and shut the lions' mouths so that they have not hurt me. Because I was found innocent before him, and also, O king, I have done no wrong before you. Now the king was exceedingly glad for him, and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no injury whatever was found on him, because he believed in his God. And the king gave the command, and they brought those men who had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions, them, their children, and their wives. And the lions overpowered them, and they broke all their bones in pieces before they ever came to the bottom of the den. Then King Darius wrote, To all peoples, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied to you. I make a decree that every dominion of my kingdom men must tremble and fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, and steadfast forever. His kingdom is the one which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall endure to the end. He delivers and rescues, and he works signs and wonders in heaven and on earth, who has delivered Daniel from the power of the lions. So this Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian. So a couple things, about 4 things actually. So under kingdom dynamics for Daniel 6:3, a kingdom man thriving in exile. Daniel. When the Babylonians invaded Judah, they destroyed Jerusalem. They exiled the best and the brightest young people to Babylon. There, Daniel and his peers were taught the language and literature of the culture so they would be useful to their captors. Though he served various godless kings in an evil country and under very difficult circumstances, Daniel maintained his strong relationship with the Lord, as he was sovereignly promoted into significant positions of increasing influence and prophetic impact in assignments that would have proven to be exceedingly challenging for a godly person. People of the kingdom who follow the Lord with integrity and who distinguish themselves through developing their God-given gifts and skills will often be sovereignly placed into positions of increasing influence in environments and cultures that are less than godly. Believers living in this kind of exile and are called and empowered to manifest God's rule and reign through their lives to make a difference as salt and light within some of the darkest parts of society. I find that to be very true. I know it's especially true for many missionaries, both here in the United States and abroad. Kingdom Dynamics for 6:10 says, pray consistently. Daniel prayed 3 times a day. One of the evidences of God's grace in his life was his consistency in prayer for more than 60 years. He had begun praying in his youth, probably in his teen years. Think of the normal setbacks or disappointments that a person faces in their 20s and 30s, and right on through until their 80s. Daniel suffered similar setbacks. The details were different, but the general disappointments were the same as other young people in other generations. He refused to be offended by what God did not do. for him in his young adult years, or to become bitter towards those who mistreated or betrayed him. And he refused to be distracted from his prayer life by the great amount of work that came his way due to the rapid promotions of his political career. Despite the setbacks, resistance, temptations, responsibilities, or opportunities throughout the years, Daniel remained steady in prayer. His consistency is one of the primary reasons he had such an effective prayer life in his 80s. It is also one of the reasons God used him as an example of a righteous, faithful intercessor. Daniel's life of faithfulness did not earn God's power. Rather, it positioned Daniel to live in greater agreement with God, and it was this agreement that impacted the effectiveness of his prayers. This is Ruby. I also have word wealth for 627, rescues. Netzal, Strong's number 5335, Aramaic, to deliver, rescue, save. It is used in 329 of God saving his faithful believers. Daniel's three friends from what should have been instant death in the fiery furnace. In the fiery furnace. 329, I'm sorry. Okay. Rubes. So we didn't read that, but 329. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were put in the fiery furnace. And so it's saying that in that circumstances, Daniel's three friends were saved from what should have been instant death in the fiery furnace. Here, Nebuchadnezzar declares that Daniel's God delivers and rescues, as seen in the miracle salvation of Daniel from being eaten by the lions. In 614, the word is used of Nebuchadnezzar's trying legally to save Daniel from the penalty of going into the lion's den. The same word in Hebrew is used many places in the Old Testament for deliverance or rescue from all kinds of threats and troubles. The Lord delivers his people who trust in him. Praying the word. This is adapted from Daniel 6:27. Lord, you are the one who delivers and rescues, and you work signs and wonders in heaven and on earth. You are the God who saves. So, I hope you enjoyed that reading. I heard a really cool story today. And I can't remember the name of the pastor who told it, but I know I saw it on Facebook, which I don't usually get on, but I just happened to be on it today. And he was talking about these girls, young women that were put in a concentration camp during World War II. And it was number 28, I think it was, they said. And the girls couldn't sleep. One of the sisters, there were two sisters, and one of the sisters couldn't sleep because of all the fleas. And her sister said that she had just read in the Bible that we should give thanks in all circumstances. And so the sister encouraged her other sister to be thankful and grateful for the fleas, even the fleas, that they should give thanks for their circumstances, even if they were in the concentration camp, and for the fleas. So I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember. And Tiki's like rolling in the tree, and so I've got a lot of distractions, but I'm trying to remember the story, and I'm sorry I don't remember the names. I should have probably written it down before I started this video. But the girls were Christians, and they started holding Bible studies in that number 28 cell. And after, I don't know, they had been, the war ended, or had been, the girls had been released, or whatever it was. I'm not a very good storyteller, apparently. I've only heard this story once, so I should have written stuff down. But, so I'm trying to remember it from what the pastor said. But the long and short of it was that the guards would not go in there. Being a Christian and teaching of the Bible was illegal. And the guards would not go into the cell, or 28, because of the fleas. So when the one sister was telling her other sister, give thanks for the fleas, that helped those two sisters minister to other women that were being held prisoner at the concentration camp. And they spread the gospel throughout all of the women in the camp that joined the Bible study. So anyway, I just thought it was interesting. I'm sorry for, not being able to tell you the names. I'll look it up and see if I can rectify that. But I hope you have a good night, and just know that whatever you're doing, big or small, give thanks in all circumstances. Even though it might be difficult, it might be the flea in your life. If you give thanks in all circumstances, God always uses things for good. I think of Joseph. His brothers sold him into slavery, and then he ended up saving Egypt during the famine, and his family. So what his brothers meant for evil, God took and did something good with it. So never give up hope, and God bless you, and have a great night. Thanks. See you tomorrow.